All right, let's get started. Um, can somebody confirm if you are able to see the slides? Because I have today shared the complete screen.
No, sir.
No, sir, the slides are not visible.
No, sir.
Uh, okay, let me share the entire screen. How about now?
Yes, sir, it
Yes,
is.
sir.
Okay, great. Thanks. So we were here, we looked at this program, this printed Hello World, and this was just our way of understanding a few things related to how arrays are uh, passed to the kernel from CPU to GPU. So what we are going to do today is to start with a small program which we'll write. Um, and we'll modify this program so that it becomes uh, reveals certain things, and that will force us to learn a few things related to the number of threads, etc. So I request everybody to write down this code somewhere. Meanwhile, I'll also write down, so that's the reason why I shared the complete screen. So what we want to do is to initialize an array of size 32 to all zeros, right, in parallel. So I'm also going to write along with you that .cu. Is the text size readable enough?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Um,
So
Hi, Rubish and
yeah,
Shovik.
yeah, tell me.
Yeah, so your screen is visible, but on the right hand, so the list of people are coming. So I think,
Oh, the
yeah.
still, I mean,
So, mm,
okay, maybe I suggest students to pin that particular window so that uh, so at the center of this particular screen, you should see a pin button. So just click on that so that it takes the complete screen. Okay, so we'll move ahead. I request you also to try it out. So we'll first write the kernel. So it starts with underscore underscore global underscore underscore. It returns void, and this is the init kernel which we want it to take an array as a parameter. So let's say that is of type int, and we also need to know its length. Let's say alen is the parameter which we are passing from the CPU. Okay, there is some message in the chat box. Font color is slightly difficult to see. Okay, maybe that hash include you can ignore. I hope with this green and white it should be readable. Okay, so we want to initialize this array to all zeros. So one way in which I can do is to use thread ID, and that I'm going to declare here, where I'm going to say thread idx dot x, and if id is less than array length, then I'm going to say a of id equal to 0. Right, so that is what is my kernel. I'm going to write main now, and in main I need well, one array which is going to be this device array, and then I also need its size, which maybe I'll just declare it as capital N, so that it matches with our hash define which we had in the previous program. Somebody is joining. So, and what I need to pass as a parameter to init, this is the kernel call, is number of threads with which I am launching this kernel. So for now, I'm just using our regular numbers, and then I'm going to pass DA, and I'm going to pass N as a parameter. Right? Now I need to define these. Uh, and I can as well have CUDA device synchronize. Now DA I need to allocate, therefore I'm going to use CUDA malloc. ampersand DA. I need to give it size, let's say n into size of int. And that array is now allocated, which I can pass as a parameter, but I need to also define n now. So let's say n is according to our problem definition, it should be 32. So I'm going to initialize it to 32. Right? How do I know that the procedure was executed correctly? Maybe I should print it, right? So if I have to print it, let's say I equal to 0, I less than n plus plus I, printf %d, let's say, now I cannot use dA of I here, right? And that's because DA is accessible only to the GPU. So that means that I need to copy that DA to some array on the CPU. So I'm going to do that now. I'll declare an array int A of size n. And then I need to copy the array DA to A. So that gets done using CUDA memcopy. So I need to pass the destination, which is A, then the source, which is DA, then the number of bytes, which is n into size of int, and then the direction, CUDA mem CPY device to host. And once I have that in A, then I can print it, which I need to change this to A of I. Right? So this seems to be reasonable. Anybody sees any issues? Anybody sees any compilation issues or let's say logical issues with the code?
So we discussed earlier, we don't need device synchronized with man copy, right?
Yes, that is correct. So in this case, CUDA device synchronize is optional. I have just kept it for now, but yeah, you can ignore that too. That is perfect.
So you did not create A of n.
We declared it here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. That's fine. Yeah, any other issues?
Sir, do we really need to pass the length? Because
okay. Yeah, because
we can do like this, right? Thread ID, like A of thread ID dot x equal to 0 directly, because like we are only we are only calling 1 comma n, like n will be only 32 threads will be initialized, right?
That is correct. So in this case, this condition, if id less than ln, is actually redundant because we are calling the kernel with same number of threads as the array size. So that is perfect. So we can ignore that condition also, and therefore we don't need to pass ln as well as a parameter to this. That is perfect. For this example, it is not required. Correct. Any other changes? Okay, so I'm going to compile this. Let's see, NVCC compile this. Okay, it compiled fine. And now I'm going to run it. And we expect the output to be that it should print 32 zeros, right? So that is what is our expectation. Let's see if that happens. So maybe this number is equal to 32. And so it seems that whatever we were anticipating, that seemed to work fine, right? Any questions so far on this one? If the number of threads is equal to the size of the array, why do we need? No, currently it is not required. It's more for the future, but yeah, in later we will require that. For now, it is not required. You can ignore that. Like CUDA device synchronize is optional. In this current program, this condition id less than a length is also optional. That is correct. But it doesn't hurt, by the way. Right? So we'll require that condition soon. That's why I have kept it. Okay, so if this is okay, then we are going to go back to the slide, and I'm going to ask you to do something more to this. Okay. So what I want you to do is to change the array size to 1024 and create another kernel that adds I to array of I. So that is second and third part. After that, we'll come back to the fourth and fifth. Okay, so I'll wait for a few seconds for you to try it out in case you have access to a GPU right now. And you can as well write the kernel. If you don't have access, you can write it in your copies or on your laptop. Okay, so we'll try that. We'll change the array size to 1024, and we need to write another kernel, which is global void, let's say add, again similar parameters. And I'm going to again use this condition redundantly if id less than ln. Then do a of id plus equal to id, right? So that is what we wanted. That adds I to array of I. So I'm going to use a of id plus equal to id. Since in this case everything is independent and starting from 0, this is same as a of id equal to id, right? Because it's initialized to 0. And I need to now call it. So let me call it after init. So since we already have this CUDA device synchronous, I can make use of this here. I again pass DA and N, and that should be sufficient. And again, I get back the elements. Note that since we use that N everywhere, we didn't have to change CUDA mem copy parameters, etc. And we are just going to print. So we are going to print 1024 numbers. And since it is going to add ID to 0, that means that essentially we are going to add print 0 to 1023. Right? So let's see if that is what is saying. Anybody has any questions so far on this? Any issues anybody sees before I compile the program?
So one more less than symbol after add.
Oh, right. You are right. Good. Yes. Okay. Any other?
So Rahul is asking, do we have any ordering among the 32 threads?
As far as these 32 threads original program are concerned, there is no ordering amongst them. In fact, we'll study that they are going to be actually executing in something called as lockstep manner. Right? That is, they are all executing the same instruction at the same time. But as far as multiple blocks of 32 are concerned, for example, that is happening now. So now there are 32 blocks of 32 threads. That is leading to 1024 threads. There will be some ordering amongst them, but that ordering cannot be guaranteed in the sense that we cannot assume that the first block is going to always execute first and so on. It could be an arbitrary execution. Why don't we have unsigned int but just unsigned? Well, it's the same as unsigned int, just optional. Okay.
So I have one question.
Yeah, sure.
So block wise, block wise, it will be SPMD, right?
Block wise, it will be single program, multiple data. Yes.
But warp wise, it will be SIMD. Warp
wise, it will be SIMD. Yeah, I have not told yet about the warp, but essentially what Shouvik is suggesting is this 32 threads are forming something called as a warp, which is going to execute in single instruction, multiple data format. And then they are together going to be part of, multiple warps are going to be part of a block, which is going to be executed in single program, multiple data format, which means that they need not execute the same instruction, but they are executing the same kernel. Okay, so then we'll try to compile this. Somebody has a question?
Sir, a general doubt about CUDA mem copy.
Sure.
So, how will it know that when to stop copying from DA to A, from the memory in GPU to memory in the CPU?
You mean the size of the memory?
The size is there. So suppose if the block in the memory of GPU is changed once, then it will update it in the CPU. Is it like that?
No, it is not automatic. Yeah. So currently the way we are writing the program, everything is in programmer's control. GPU is not doing anything automatically. So this CUDA mem copy will copy those many elements from GPU to CPU, and that's it. If we change the GPU memory now, right? For example, if we do this CUDA mem copy between init and add, it will copy zeros to CPU memory. After that, the GPU memory will change because of add, but it will not copy it unless we have explicitly given another CUDA mem copy.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Okay, but we will study something called as pinned memory or CUDA host alloc, which will allow you to have some automatic transfer between CPU and GPU memory, right? So that gets taken care of automatically by the GPU. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
so
go
we'd
ahead.
also discussed that like the CUDA mem copy is handled by the PCI Express, and like these instructions will be running on the cores separately, right? So, is there no chance like that a certain core doesn't finish its execution and the PCI Express already does the data transfer from GPU to CPU before that?
No. In this case, it will never happen. But if you are using that CUDA host alloc, then there is a possibility of happening. But currently in our whatever codes we are writing currently, there is no such thing going to happen. CUDA mem copy is going to get invoked only after the kernel is finished.
Okay.
Okay, so it compiled fine. Let's see if it runs and gives expected output. So it gives output from 0 to 1023, I suppose. Yeah. So that is what we were expecting as the output. So hopefully this program is working fine. So just to make sure that we understand this part, what I'm going to do is to move this in between. Right? So we anticipate that A, that is the CPU memory, is now going to copy all the zeros. After that, there is something happening on the GPU. This is not going to be visible on the CPU. And although there is CUDA device synchronize, that means add completely finishes. When we print A here, it should still give 1024 zeros. Right? So that is what is our expectation. Let's see if that happens. That seems to be what we were anticipating. Right? So does that seem reasonable? Any questions, any concerns so far? Okay. All right. So now let's come to the third part where we are going to change the array size to 8,000, and we'll see if the problem still gets correctly solved. Right. So the rest of the code remains the same. I'm going to change this to 8,000. Let me compile. It compiles fine, and then I'm going to do an a.out, and this is not something which we were anticipating, because we were anticipating that there should be 0 to 7999 should get printed or something similar. We were definitely not expecting all zeros to be printed, right? So just to make sure that we are not doing anything wrong, I'm changing it back to 1024. And it should print 0 to 1023, right? So just by changing that to 8,000, something wrong is happening, right? So let's understand what that is. So this has something to do with the number of threads I can specify as the second parameter to this kernel, right? It has a limit, and the limit is specified by the GPU. And in this case, it so happens that 1024 is the limit. So for example, even if I change it to 1025, it should still give all zeros or something which I am not anticipating as the output, right? So why that is happening is because there is a limit. And if we have to still process more amount of data than 1024, then I need to make use of this first parameter. I need to increase it. So we'll study that now. Okay, so this you can try later, z equal to x square plus y cube. You can read from either a file or an input and square each integer and then cube another sequence of integers and then add those sequence and print the output. So let's understand how threads are organized. So a kernel is always launched as a some group of threads. That group of threads is called as a grid, which means that a grid is associated with a kernel. Why is it called a grid? Because threads are organized in some way. Like grid has 2D grid has nice, let's say horizontal and vertical lines, right? Similarly, a 3D, sometimes it is called as a grid, sometimes maybe a 3D mesh, but essentially you have certain points at which x, y, and z coordinates are dictated. In a similar manner, threads are organized as x, y, z coordinates. Right? So this grid is, so there are 3 levels in this hierarchy. At the topmost level is the grid. Grid is a 3D array of something called as a thread block. A thread block is in turn a 3D array of individual threads. So what we were doing so far were the thread idx.x, which was one-dimensional, let's say ID of a particular thread. There are also .y and .z, which we didn't worry about, but those are going to be also formed. These threads together are going to be grouped into a block or a thread block, and multiple thread blocks are part of the grid. Right? So there is this hierarchy: grid, thread blocks, and threads, and we are going to study each of that. So if you read the book, you will see that it gets into a lot of this jargon a little early on, and that sometimes creates problems from the understanding perspective. Although we are going to study this XYZ in today's class, it so happens that this is more for easiness purpose. In case you have data which is 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional, then you need to get into this. But for all the practical purposes, you don't need to get into 2D and 3D. You can do it with a single dimension .x, and there is no performance difference with respect to that. But I think we should be aware of what is happening. So therefore, there are multiple entities here. So let's understand that. Okay. So multiple threads. So each thread has .x, .y, .z. That is its ID, 3-dimensional ID. Multiple threads are grouped into a block. The block itself has an ID, which is going to be again .x, .y, and .z. Sorry, not this one, .x, .y, and .z. A block will also have a dimension, which means how many threads it has in x direction, how many threads in y direction, how many in z direction. That is decided by block dimension, and that is again .x, .y, .z. How many blocks are there inside a grid is decided using the grid dimension. Right? So that is griddim.x, griddim.y, and griddim.z. Right? So let's write a program, and that will probably make things a little clearer. Yeah, I'll just show you visually how it looks like. So we have this kernel 1, then kernel 2. Each one of them is associated with a grid. Inside a grid are multiple blocks, right? So this is like a 2x2 block, and therefore I say that this grid is having 2 dimensions, x and y. Z dimension is 1, right? And therefore this 2x2 blocks I can always be representing using 2 parameters, 0, 0, I and j, where those go from 0 and 1, right? So therefore these are all different kinds of blocks, and they have these x and y dimensions. So this particular 0 is going to be block idx dot x, right? This second parameter is going to be block idx dot y. This 2 is griddim.x, that is the number of dimensions in x direction, and this is griddim.y. Okay. Within the block, for example, I am just taking out this particular block 1 1 here, which is getting expanded and shown here. This is the complete block, which means that these are all the threads within that block, right? And similar setup is going to get repeated in the other 3 blocks. This block has these are three-dimensional block. So this is going to be block dim.x, block dim.y, and block dim.z. And each thread is going to be 3D part, which is going to go from 0 0 0 to this particular one that I'm painting here, which should be 3 1 1. Right? So that is going to be the ID of that particular block, which is not shown. So this is again X, this is Y, oops, sorry. Okay, so these are X, Y, and Z of the thread block, of the thread, which means that these are going to be thread idx.x, thread idx.y, and thread idx.z. Okay, and as you can see, in X direction we have 4 threads. That is what is block dim.x. In Y direction we have 2, and in Z direction again we have 2. So that is what is matching here. So I'm just going to push that into text right now. So each thread uses IDs to decide what data to work on. So block ID could be 1D, 2D, or 3D. Right? When it is 2D, that means X and Y are specified. Z is 0. I mean, that is Z0 is means that in the Z direction there is only one block, and therefore its ID is going to be 0. When it is 3D, the X and Y are specified. X, Y, Z is specified. When it is 1D, only X is specified, and but you can do other ways. For example, you can have X to be 0, Y to be something, and Z to be 0 again. That is also possible. Similarly for the thread ID. And in several, for example, if you are dealing with a geometry or on a volume, it just makes your life accessing the particular thread easy. Like we were talking about A of ID, where ID was thread ID. It just made it easy because A was single dimensional, right? A was a linear array. If A would have been a matrix, then it would become easier to talk about thread idx.x and thread idx.y, and we'll study that example soon. A typical configuration is that, and for that I need to tell what that SM is. So a GPU is constituted of multiple streaming multiprocessors. So there are large number of streaming multiprocessors. Each streaming multiprocessor is going to have certain number of cores. Right? And to each streaming multiprocessor, you can assign multiple thread blocks. So thread blocks is more like a software concept, I would say, which is controlled by you. You don't have control over the streaming multiprocessor, but you have control over the block. You can specify the number of threads within a block, for example. Similarly, you don't have control over the cores, but you have control over a thread in the sense what each thread does and so on. So typically you can have a few blocks assigned to each streaming multiprocessor. You can have more, but these are just typical values. Similarly, you can have a typical values are 128 to 1024 threads inside one block, and total number of threads that could go into a few tens of few hundred thousands, for example, here. You can as well launch it with millions of threads. That doesn't stop you. I mean, these are typical values. These are not the limits. Right? So it might have been a little difficult to understand this part, when you look at actual program, hopefully things will become a little clearer. So please hold on to it. But if there are any questions, please feel free to ask now. Okay, there are questions. Let me go back to that. Okay, is audio breaking? Some people are finding the audio to be breaking. I hope it is better now. Why don't we need CUDA device synchronized between init and add? Shouldn't the execution of init be completed before add is called? Yes. You are correct that the init finishes before the add is started, and therefore you don't need CUDA device synchronized between them. Even if you give it, it doesn't hurt. The book, as is specified on the syllabus, is the Wenmei and Kirk's book, Programming Massively Massive Computers, or Programming Massively Parallel Processors, as Shavik has mentioned. What is a streaming multiprocessor? Streaming multiprocessor is more like think about it as a multiprocessor, right? That means it has multiple cores in it. Right? And one block is going to get assigned to that multiprocessor, which means that multiple threads are actually going to execute in parallel on a multiprocessor. Okay. All right. So let's look at a specific program. So let's understand this step by step. So I'm going to start with our usual hash includes and main. Then I'm going to specify how a grid is going to be specified. Right? So there are two parameters to this kernel call. I'm calling it dkernel: the grid dimensions and the block dimensions. So far we said that grid is 1 and comma n, where it is the number of threads. And I'm going to specify, since there are multiple blocks inside a grid and a block has multiple threads, the total number of threads with which I'm launching the kernel is going to be a multiplication of these two. So grid multiplied by block is going to give me the total number of threads with which the kernel is launched. How can I multiply something which looks like this? Well, that is taken care of internally, but let's understand this. So what that grid essentially means, that griddim.x is 2, griddim.y is 3, and griddim.z is 4, which means that block id.x is going to range from 0 to 1. Block id.z is going to range from 0 to 3. Okay. Within each block, there are threads. How many threads are there within the block? 5 into 6 into 7. Those many threads are there within each block. So far we were talking about n as 32 or 1024. Currently I'm going to specify that the number of threads within a block is going to be 5 into 6 into 7. And their thread IDs are going to range from thread idx.x is going to range from 0 to 4. Thread idx.y is going to range from 0 to 5. Thread idx.z from 0 to 6. And the number of blocks is going to be 2 into 3 into 4. Just that those are arranged in a particular manner. But if I just specify 24, so I can specify this grid and block to be 24 comma whatever is 5 into 6 into 7. And that is going to be the same number of threads as is currently being specified. It's just that that is going to be in one dimension, which means that block id dot y is going to be 0, block id dot z is going to be 0. Similarly, thread id dot y and thread id dot z are going to be 0. Only in the x dimension we will see those values. But for now, we are specifying all three values to understand how a 3D dimension works. Okay. How do I access that within a kernel? By the way, these the ones that I was talking about, thread idx.x, y, z, etc. Those are all accessible only within the kernel. Those are not accessible on the CPU. So if all of these values are zeros, right? So this is just a code that I'm printing. Then I expect it to print all of these values, griddim.x, y, z, and blockdim.x, y, z. I want you to think about what is the output of this program. Okay, I'll just show that a little later. Okay, how many printfs are getting executed? There is a question. Geometrically, the threads are organized in 9 dimensions. Yeah, 3 into 3. Yes, correct. Okay, so how many printfs will get executed because of this when we run this program?
One.
Okay. Okay, many of you are saying just 1. Anybody has a different answer? Okay, so let's understand that. The answer is correct. As far as X, Y, and Z for thread ID is concerned, there are going to be large number of threads which are going to have XYZ to be 0. The thread ID x.xyz to be 0. However, that inside XYZ block also to be 0, there is going to be only a single block who has a .xyz to be 0, right? So we are talking about a single block. Within that, there is going to be only one thread which is going to have XYZ to be 0, and therefore this printf is going to get executed by a single thread, and therefore it will have a single printf. What are the values that it will print? It will print essentially this 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. Right? If there is any confusion so far, please feel free to ask.
Sir, can you repeat again, like why did the thread part is only one, only zeros will occur in only one block?
Sure. So if we look at this part, the block idx.x equal to 0 and .y.z, there is only one block in the whole grid. Sorry. There is only one block in the whole grid which is going to have 0, 0, 0 as the dimensions, not dimension, as the IDs, right? So for example, if I go back to this diagram, so the only one block has 0, 0 here, right? That is going to change across the grid dimensions. So similarly, here only one block is going to have 0, 0, 0. The other one is going to be 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2, 0, 0, 3, and then it will be 1, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, and so on, right? So this is a typical, so think about it as a 3-dimensional array inside C, and those are going to be the blocks which are associated with it. So there is going to be only one block. Within that block, how many threads will have thread idx.x.y.z to be 0? That is going to be decided by this part, the second part. So within a block, only one thread is going to have again 0, 0, 0. Again, I am going to go back to that picture. So only one thread within a block is going to have 0, 0. There will be 0, 0, 0 in each block, right? But only one thread within any block is going to be 0, 0, 0, and therefore this printing is going to get done only by one thread, right? Which is going to print the values as 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7. So that is what it gets printed. Just for our understanding, the number of threads with which the kernel is launched is going to be a multiplication of all these parameters, that is the block size and the grid size. Number of threads inside each thread block is going to be 5 into 6 into 7, that is specified by this parameter, also by this parameter. And the number of thread blocks in that grid, that is the first parameter of the kernel launch, is going to be what is decided by the grid dimension, 2 into 3 into 4. Thread ID in X dimension is going to be from 0 to 4. Block ID in Y dimension is going to be from 0 to 2, 0, 1, 2, like that. Okay. So any questions so far? Okay, so we'll go ahead. So if I now change that if condition to thread idx.x equals 0, that is the only condition that is there, and then there is this printf. How many times the printf will get executed? Please think about it and answer.
Sorry, sir, can you repeat the question, please?
The question is here that instead of this large condition having 6 conditionals, I'm going to have only one conditional which says thread id x.x equals 0. Right? No other conditions on .y, .z or block id. How many times will the kernel printf get executed? So some of you are saying that is going to be 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So that seems correct, right? So yeah, 1000. Yeah. So as far as this 5 parameter is concerned, that is what is not going to appear because thread idx.x is going to be specified by this. The other .x, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 are not going to get considered, and all other .y and .z of thread idx are going to get considered, as well as that needs to repeat for all the blocks, which are going to be 2 into 3 into 4, and therefore this should be the answer. This answer seems to be correct, whatever you have given. Okay, so let's come from 3 dimensions to 2 dimensions. Right? So we are going to lower our standards. Let me move this to the left. So I'm going to use only 2 dimensions now, and let's say that there is some n and some m which I'm defining 5 and 6, and then again I'm going to call some kernel. Right? So I'm again going to use dim3. That dim3 essentially means 3-dimensional. There is also a notion of dim2 which you can use for this purpose, but just I'm using dim3 to make sure that we understand the 3rd dimension also. So I'm going to specify the block, which means that I'm going to specify the thread idx. So when I'm specifying block, that means that I'm going to specify the thread geometry within that block. So there are 0 to n minus 1 IDs thread idx.x, 0 to m minus 1 for thread idx.y, and 0 to 0 for thread idx.z. And I'm going to now talk about a matrix instead of an array. So that matrix is 2-dimensional, right? Which I'm going to malloc on CPU, and its size is n into m into whatever is the size of the unsigned integer. Similarly, there is an H matrix. So there is H matrix is on host, therefore that H, and then matrix is on the device, which is on the GPU, and therefore I'm also doing a CUDA malloc there. So this is just an allocation. After that, I'm going to call a kernel and perform some processing on the device matrix. I have used 1 comma block, which means that I'm going to use a single block, but the block size or the block dimension is 2-dimensional, right? And that I'm going to copy. So once that matrix gets populated inside the kernel, I'm going to copy it from matrix to H matrix, those many elements, n into m into a size of n into m elements, and I'm going to copy from GPU to CPU, and then I'm just going to print it, right, in probably a pretty printing format, where I goes from 0 to n minus 1, j goes from 0 to m minus 1. And note that this is using malloc, and therefore it is actually a single dimensional matrix, and I need to convert it into a single dimensional access using I and j, and that is very similar to what we do usually in C, where the number of columns is multiplied, that is number of columns is m, that is multiplied by the row number, and then plus the column number, which is j. How do I write the kernel? Okay, so I'm asking you to write the kernel. What you need to do is to initialize the matrix to unique identifiers, and unique identifiers essentially means 0 to mn minus 1. So I want you to write the kernel, and somebody can just paste that code into the chat box. Let's see. I'm going to stop allowing the messages for now. I want everybody to try out. So please write a kernel to initialize this particular matrix which I am passing as a parameter to D kernel and initialize it to values 0 to mn minus 1. So what all will you require? You will require how to calculate a unique identifier using n and m. N and m are going to be essentially threadidx.x and threadidx.y. So using that you have to find out. Okay, I am now enabling the chat. In case somebody has finished writing or typing, please feel free to paste it in the chat box. Okay. That looks good. Rahul. Anybody else? Venkat Kushal, matrix of threadix into M plus thread ID dot Y. That looks correct. Thread x dot x equals M if dot Y is N. Yes, because I think this expression
those conditions won't be there.
yeah.
Forgot to remove
So this expression seems to be fine. The GAR plus thread idx dot x into n plus not n, it will be m. I think this part of thread idx dot into thread. I think there are probably multiple issues with this code. Yeah, those conditions will never be true, by the way, because there won't be any thread idx dot x equal to m. It will be only from 0 to n minus 1. Okay. Aditya is saying I less than m and j less than n. I into block dim dot y plus j. I into, yeah, that seems fine. Tarun is saying x thread id x block dim dot y plus thread dot y. That is correct. Yeah. Then Nitish Kumar dot x dot y. Yeah, that seems to be fine. Okay, so I think all of you seem to have gotten a good hang of this. You can, okay, so there are two ways in which this can be done. One is x into number of dimensions in y plus y, or you can have y into number of dimensions in x plus x. Right? So either way it should be okay. And I have done it one way, similar to what most of you have done. So the unique ID is going to be, for example, x into number of dimensions in y plus y, or it could be y into number of dimensions in x plus x. So either way it should give you the same thing. What is the output of this code? We are out of time, so I'll just show you the output here. So it prints 6 into 5, I mean essentially 5 into 6 number of elements, and those are ranging from 0 to 29, that is mn minus 1. Right? Okay, so we'll stop here. If there are any quick questions, index of the matrix element. What do you mean, Rahul? Yeah, this one. Can we keep matrix as two-dimensional here? No. So we cannot pass two-dimensional matrix to the kernel, right? So that is an issue. You have to convert it into single-dimensional matrix and run it. So from CPU to GPU, you have to pass multidimensional data as single-dimensional and access it there using the different identifiers. So that's why this .x, .y, .z will turn out to be very useful. Okay, any other questions? When using CUDA-malloc, the doc sometimes pass the array as void star star. Is it necessary? It is convertible. So void star star, you can convert anything to void star star and void star stars to anything. So to make sure that it is kind of, it has the base type, it has to be specified as void star or void star star in this case. So you can typecast it, but even if you don't typecast, it is going to automatically get typecast. So that is not going to face any problem with respect to. So all these codes that I'm showing are all compiled. So you should be, and these are all available, by the way, on the website. Since I'm sharing the full screen, I can show you the website. So this is our website from GPU programming. And you have all these lecture slides available here. The deadlines are available here, and all the codes which are getting shown, these are also available here, right? So for the whole of the lecture. So feel free to make use of this, and the video lectures are pushed to this YouTube channel. So you should be able to make use of this easily. Okay, so we'll stop here unless there are any further questions, because we have already
Sir, I
exceeded
have
the time.
a small question.
Yeah, those of you who have a class, feel free to leave. Yeah, Bikash, go ahead.
Yes, sir. It's a compiler question. So when you compiled your previous programs, you used a variable to declare your array, and I tried the same, but my compiler gave an issue. So is it correct to assume that the NVCC that I downloaded uses a pre-existing C compiler of my system? And based on the differences of those compilers, the issue came.
I am not sure if it uses the existing GCC compiler or it has its own. My feeling is, I think it has its own. I'm not sure, but that is my guess. If it is not allowing, yeah, it's, I mean, we can possibly declare that a priori elsewhere. So yeah, Dhruv is suggesting that you need a compatible GCC already installed on your system, is it? Okay, I was not aware of this. I thought that it should have its own GCC, but yeah, that probably indicates that even your observation fits well, that it's probably using the existing GCC and therefore giving this issue.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other concerns?
Sir, is there any discussion forum to ask doubts after lecture?
Thought on Moodle there should be.
Okay.
There were some questions, right, on Moodle, at least some replies I saw. So on Moodle, you should be able to ask questions. Feel free.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Sir, will
right.
this
Yeah.
homework questions, sir, will this homework question will be discussed sometime in the class after some time? That you gave one homework, right?
No, I will not be discussing. Yeah, I will not be discussing, but if you have a doubt in that, feel free to post on Moodle. Either I will reply, one of the TAs will reply, or if your friends have an answer, for example, Dhruva had an answer for this compatible GCC, one of them will reply. So we will not be discussing those homework exercises.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, but feel free to post on Moodle. I mean, it's perfectly fine, no problem. All right. So we'll stop here. See you on Monday.